All right, let's start with survival. Survival. So, do you guys have a survival plan? I guess is the first thing, right? I remember when this whole beer bug thing kicked off a couple of years ago. I can't believe it's almost been 2 years now. It's going to be what, 2 years in December, January? 2 years I've been milking this mofo. Anyway, so beer bug kicks off a couple of years ago, and there was this like general feeling with most people and a lot of guys that I talk to that like this was like a shit hit the fan sort of event. That's what we were led to believe anyway. Like that's what we kept hearing. People were people were cleaning out the store shelves, and of all things, what did they clean out? Toilet paper, TP, toilet paper. That's what they cleared off the shelves. Not tin goods like beans, not ammo, toilet paper. That just goes to show you the state of the vast majority of the population and what they're thinking is if this beer bug hits, do I have enough toilet paper to wipe my butt with? That's what they're thinking. So that just goes to show you how unprepared most of the population is, because that's where their head's at. They don't think clearly. It's like, okay, do you have food and water, right? Do you have can you produce your own water? Do you have the ability to eat over a prolonged period of time? A couple months at least, right? I mean, some people, there's some serious preppers out there, man. Like I've seen some serious preppers that have like bunkers stashed with 6 months worth of tinned and pickled and preserved food. And they're just like, they're ready for it, man. Like they are going to be the most prepared during the decline of the West. I don't think it's going to be an overnight thing. For it to be an overnight thing, it really has to be like a collapse of the financial system. It has to be like a, what do they call it in that movie? An extinction level event, ELE, meteor, comet hitting the Earth, wiping out a good chunk of the population. But yeah, like we're mostly talking from the perspective here of how bad policies and the general theme of the Western population votes and decides to spend their time. And it's on dumb stuff. Wokeness, rainbows, inclusivity for everybody, have as many abortions as you want, never mind your personal freedom and choices. It's my buddy, my choice if it's got to do with terminating a pregnancy. But if you don't want to take a jab, then no, sorry, it doesn't count. You have to take the jab, otherwise you lose your job, right? So we talked about a lot of this stuff in the last show. I'm not going to go over it all, but if you want to see it, it's the prior episode, TUA number 9. You can go check it out. This stuff is available on podcast form too, so you can get it off iTunes, Google Play, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's all out there, so you can listen to this too. So survival really boils down to shelter and food would be the main things. All right. Thriving is a totally different thing, but we're talking about just basic shit, right? Food and shelter. Food, water, and shelter. And most people don't have a plan for that, right? Like we take for granted that we get up and we have access to water that comes out of a faucet. But what happens? I mean, if they're jamming jabs down our throat right now, what happens if they jam some new thing in the water system? I mean, fluoride in the water system ain't particularly good for you, but they've been cramming that down our throats. If you don't have a reverse osmosis water filtration system or some kind of filtration system that gets rid of the crap that's in the city lines, you're going to run into problems. You want to talk about crap in the city lines? I had my water filters changed the other day in my system, and it was black. It was like this shitty brown, burnt, like rust color. It was just nasty as shit. Survival matters, man. Most people don't have a plan for it. That's like a serious thing. What happens if policing disappears? What happens if you don't have access to safe, reliable everything? Not a lot of people think about that. They just believe that this is always going to be here. They just believe that if your neighbor's house is on fire, they're going to be able to pick up something like this and turn it on, and it'll connect to a cell tower, and then they can call a number where people will answer and say, "What can I do to help you?" And then send 30 brave men in a bunch of fire trucks with hoses to put the whole thing out. You take that for granted, right? What if that doesn't work? What if the cell tower doesn't work? What if there's no fire services? What if there's no policing? The thing that makes me laugh the most is when people are all just defund the police. Oh yeah, that's going to solve your problems today, isn't it? Defund the police. We don't need them. But that's, hey, listen, the fact that you hear this stuff like this so often and nobody's like destroys it, like quashes it so quickly. Like, are you insane? Like, what are you thinking? Like, really? You want to get rid of policing? You want to defund the police? Really? The fact that nobody says anything, again, it's telling of the times, right? So do you have your survival sorted out? This isn't part of the enjoy part. I'm going to get to the enjoy part because, the enjoy part's kind of interesting. I got some black hat shit. one of my guys came up with it, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Aaron Cleary talked about one of his, what do you call it, Operation Evil or something like that, which is kind of tied into my buddy's black hat stuff. But yeah, I'll go over that too. Anyway, location. Listen, if you want to enjoy the decline, being in a urban coastal city, Toronto, New York, LA, Chicago's on a big ass lake, all of these large urban coastal, like 6, 10, 12 million people living in these cities. I mean, there's cities out there that have more than that too, obviously, but you get the idea. Like, is that where, like, how you, like, a place that you're going to enjoy the decline? You don't have the ability to maneuver. Show me your paperwork if you want to come into this restaurant and sit down. Show me your paperwork if you want to watch a movie in the theater. What's it going to be next? Make sure your paperwork's updated with stamps for all your daily pills that Pfizer, is going to make you take, sort of thing, right? So you want some flexibility and freedom. It ain't going to come from large urban centers, okay? I'm just going to say it because I've noticed it, because I hold real estate in downtown Toronto. There's an exodus of people leaving large cities. The smart ones have either exited or they're planning an exit. Hey, these are the smart people, right? They're the leaders. There's a reason why the moves are being made for those personal freedoms. You're not going to get it in an urban city, right? Location does matter. Government in location matters too. I already talked about my plan to exit. I don't know if it's going to be permanent or on a part-time basis. Canada, find a place that's more, I don't have to deal with the wokeness. I don't have to deal with the incredibly high tax rates. I don't have to deal with the cold ass winters. I don't have to deal with, all of that stuff. Or if I do have to deal with it, it's on a very limited basis, right? There's places in the Caribbean with very low or if no tax rates. There's places around the world that exist like that. There's places where they don't entertain wokeness. Frickin' Justin Trudeau gave a speech in the last couple of weeks. Some of you may have heard of it. I'm sure many of you didn't hear it because a lot of you live outside of the country. But he said something like, we need to come out of this she session for the she economy. Doesn't say economy, doesn't say recession. It's all about the wokeness and trying to lean into all the nonsense. So if you're finding yourself in an environment where the location doesn't allow you to enjoy the decline, you're not tied down there, right? I did a cast with this guy, David Lesperance, and it was on my Plane to Win series in the last few months. You can go back and check it out. You can just search on my channel, Entrepreneurs and Cars, and then David Lesperance. And he's a former lawyer that specializes in relocating individuals, high net worth individuals, specifically right now anyway, to other locations in the world where their tax rates are more favorable, they're treated better, they can get basically what they want in their life. And there's a lot of things that came out of that. One of the things that really stood out is your assets don't need to be where your ass is, right? So, I mean, you can live somewhere and have your assets in another country. There's lots of things to consider. Having more than one passport's a really good idea. We talked about that during that show in detail, so you can check that out on why. But yeah, your location it's not fixed, guys. This is not 20,000 years ago where you couldn't hop on a plane or get in a car and drive. I mean, frickin' a car, you can drive almost 1,000 kilometers a day easily, right? Comfortably, for the most part. Hopping on a plane, you can cover a lot more than that way quicker. Boats too. I mean, not quite as quick, obviously, but you have the ability to maneuver. So don't think for a second that just because you live somewhere that you need to be there for the rest of your life. If you think that it doesn't serve you, you can move on. Yeah, the she economy, the balance sheet balances itself, Trudeau. We got an election coming out soon. Can't wait for this one to wrap up. Hopefully we get rid of this clown.